Live Cricket.
Evening, welcome to 5 Live Cricket. Final test between India and England gets underway on Thursday in Dharamshala. India have already won the series. They lead 3-1 after their victory in the fourth test a week ago. So we will look ahead to the final test over the next hour. We'll hear from Tom Hartley on his breakthrough in the series. So Phil Tufnell, Mark Ramprakash are with us, as is the ex-India wicketkeeper Deep Das Gupta. We'll keep you up to date when any of the goals go in. Mark Ramprakash, you still feel there's... I know the series is gone, but you still feel there's a fair bit to play for, don't you?
Hi, good evening. Absolutely. There's always plenty to play for when you're playing a test match because you're playing for your country. Both teams, of course, have a lot to play for. And there are points on offer for the World Test Championship, so that's important. And Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum will be well aware that 3-2 sounds a lot better than 4-1. So the England players, every single one of them has got individual aspirations to do well, but also collectively as a team, they want to come back being able to hold on to a positive result, hopefully, in this last match. Yeah,
that is a big thing, isn't it, Phil? That 3-2 is obviously very different to 4-1.
Well, yes. And I think it will just be... I think they'll be able to sit on the plane on the way home, England, at 3-2 and think, if we'd have just had these moments go our way, but it doesn't matter how much you sort of think about that on the way back, looking at 4-1, that has to be gone and things have to be perhaps looked at and tweaked a little bit. So, absolutely, a lot still rides on it. I've played in a few dead rubbers and, was still as nervous, still wanted to do as well, still wanted to, as you say, you're out there playing for your country and you want to finish on a high and sort of like for your own pride as well as your country's sort of pride as well. So lots to play for.
Well, and also because it will, for your own pride, and as you said, Mark, for some players, a good performance in this test might just quieten the noise building up to the summer around them, mightn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And some players more than others are getting spoken about. Of course, we've got Jonny Bairstow coming into his 100th test, which is an amazing achievement. But there is a lot of discussion about his form and whether we'll go into the summer and there'll be a blank sheet of paper once again, and people will have to earn the right to play. Harry Brook, of course, waiting in the wings, wonderful start to his test career. So you'd think that he would come straight back in. I think with the spinners, there's probably an understanding that Bashir and Hartley will have to try and go back and cement a place in their counties. But then it's the pace bowlers, who comes in. Ollie Robinson obviously has had a tricky tour so far. I'm looking forward to seeing Gus Atkinson. I wonder whether he might get a game in this last test match. But he's certainly got the attributes to be, you would think, successful at international level. And sooner or later, I'd love to see him get an outing.
There's all those different selection things to discuss over the next 55 minutes or so. But Deep, just on the venue, before we get on to the selection, I mean, if you look at some of the England players on Instagram, they have been in some amazing places over the last 24, 48 hours. This looks like a venue like no other.
Absolutely so. I mean, I can't think of a more picturesque venue. I guess the closest I can think of is Cape Town. This is absolutely brilliant. I mean, the snow-capped mountains overlooking the stadium, and you've got lovely hiking trails next to the stadium. You can go up to the Himalayas. Then obviously you've got the McLeod-Ganj, which is a little higher. That's where the seat of the Dalai Lama is. So if you're lucky enough, you can actually meet him. I've had the honor and the pleasure of meeting him a couple of times.
Wow.
And generally, if he's around, he does come for the game. I mean, he will just, come for half an hour or stuff like that. There's so much to do there. And weather-wise, I guess, the English team would be very, very comfortable. I think the temperature there would be around 3-4 degrees or something like that.
Ooh, chilly.
Yeah, so
it's like the start of the county championship season.
Yeah, it's a good prep for the start of the season, the start of the summer. Yeah.
What do you?
I met the Dalai Lama in Durban.
Did you?
No.
Yeah, he was coming out of a hotel and I was coming in the back. I was coming in the back sort of door after training and he came out. He said hello. I went, all right. Yeah, no, it was amazing. It was amazing.
I thought it was an early morning thing.
Yes, that's what I assumed, that he was going in the back door of the hotel because he was getting back very late.
No. But and I think he might have popped along actually. Well, we kept looking for him because we needed a bit of inspiration. we did.
The conditions you would assume, Mark, would, well, not assume because they always do, but that would give England a couple of question marks over selection?
Yes, they've got a bit to ponder. And I say only a bit because it would seem that the top 7 are going to play. You know, Folkes, it would seem, would retain his position as wicketkeeper, and the top 6 are not likely to be changed. So really, it's just about the composition of the bowling attack. England will obviously have to have a look at the pitch and the forecast. I would have thought it likely that they'd go 2 and 2, 2 pace bowlers, 2 spinners. There's not been a lot of Test cricket at this ground before. I think 1 Test, and inevitably wickets will fall to spin because Indian spinners are very, very good at home. But England have got to try and find the right blend for them to try and take 20 wickets and win the game. And that might well be probably Mark Wood, I would have thought, if he's fit and fresh, to come straight back in. And then they've got to select from another one from the guys available out there. So I'd have thought a fairly balanced attack because the conditions are so cool. 2 seamers, 2 frontline spinners backed up by maybe a little bit of Root and possibly Ben Stokes to bowl a few.
Phil?
Yeah, just listening to Mark there, it's kind of the perfect opportunity to give Gus Atkinson a bit of a run out, do you think? The Test series has gone. We kind of know what Jimmy Anderson does. It might be worth just giving him a bit of a rest and sort of like letting Gus Atkinson have a taste of international cricket and sort of what it's like to play over in India. But I go with Mark, 2 and 2. The spin bowlers have been an absolute plus for England, haven't they? They've almost sort of stood toe to toe with the Indian spinners and have really given England a chance. They've taken their wickets. They've taken a lot of wickets and really proved their worth of being so inexperienced. So I think they definitely play for me. And then it's just whether you give Jimmy a little rest or you really want to go hard and sort of go for that 3rd win. But it's going to be interesting. A little bit to ponder, that's for sure. I think it was sleeting there the other day, wasn't it? I think I saw on social media. Yeah. So it is going to be. It's going to be a bit tricky.
But Deep, you keep the 2 spinners, don't you? If you're England, partly because they haven't done anything wrong.
True. You would. A couple of things. Obviously, it's cold there. It's high altitude, so there's going to be carry, and generally, it's a surface where there is bounce available on that surface. So. And talking about the last Test match, I think it was against Australia, and Kuldeep was the player of the match. He picked up a 5 if I'm not wrong. So I will kind of pick those 2 spinners, and both of them bowled really well. Especially Bashir was absolutely brilliant last Test match, and also the fact that it's been raining for the last couple of days. So I'm not too sure whether, and the forecast is for rain for the next few days as well, so I'm not too sure whether there'll be enough time for the curators to prepare the pitch as much as they would want to, so that might help the spinners a little more than usual.
Let's hear from one of the England spinners then, Tom Hartley, who's taken 20 wickets in the series so far. He's been speaking with Stefan Schemmelt and says he's proud of his performances so far.
It's when I get a little moment alone, I tend to think about it, and I just can't believe it really still. But I'm starting to realise maybe I am good enough for this, and that I should be expecting to do well. So long may it continue, hopefully.
How different a cricketer are you to 6 weeks ago?
I'm a lot more confident, I'll tell you that. Obviously not really played a whole lot of red ball cricket, but coming to this, it's really made me believe that I think I do have a talent for this and I can perform at this level. I've just had a smile on my face and just keep it going.
How does that confidence manifest itself? How do you know that you're more confident? What have you seen in yourself?
I think when I go out on the field, I'm really trying and thinking and believing I can take wickets and do well, and it's not just a case of bowling and hoping that they might chip one up or trying to go at 2.5, maybe 3 and over. It's more of a case of believing I can get these people out, and then starting to realise how I'm going to get them out. And it's just been a complete change of mindset.
We're here in Dharamshala. You've had a little walk around the town. Today, what have you made of it?
Oh, it's fantastic. We had a nice run this morning. No clouds. We've got a lovely view of the mountains behind us, and walking around the town at the top of the hill here. It was fantastic just to experience different culture, really.
I know you guys haven't trained here yet, but straight away from certainly the weather yesterday, and it's obviously a little bit cooler. Does it feel like it's going to be different this week to what it has been in the first 4 tests?
I certainly think so, but you never know in India really what they've been able to do. Obviously there has been a lot of rain, but we'll kind of see when we get there tomorrow, really.
And obviously there might be a conversation of whether England play 2 spinners or not, and that might be a conversation that's going to follow you round for a few weeks now.
Yeah, obviously being a bit chilly here, we just, you never know, might see if it's more English conditions, you never know. And obviously back in England, I think it's a bit too early to say what's going to go on. We might be surprised and get a real nice heat wave or whatever, but, whatever happens, whatever will be, will be.
Obviously, Lancashire signed Nathan Lyon before you had the success that you've had on this tour. When that happened, you wouldn't have been human if you hadn't have thought, how does that affect me? So what was going through your mind when you knew that Nathan was on his way to Old Trafford?
Yeah, obviously signing the spinner, you always think about it a little bit, but the type of bowler he is someone I'm trying to work on, and the way he operates in Australia on pretty flat wickets, there's times where in English wickets are pretty similar, so he's going to be great to learn off, and you just can't think too much into it, and hopefully we'll play together.
Presumably you're going to want to build on the momentum that you've had from this tour. You're going to want to go back to Lancashire, and you're going to want to play. You're not just going to want to be 12th man.
Well, you're always looking to play, and whenever that happens, I'll be ready. So, like I said, I don't like to think that far ahead, and just stay in the present really, and focus on what's happening here and now.
A tremendous person to learn from, whether or not you're playing in the same 11 or just being in the same dressing room.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, he's someone who I want to try and replicate, and obviously, over here I've tried to replicate Jadeja and Axar and people like that, and I think to be an international cricketer, you got to be able to perform in different conditions, and I think Nathan is probably the next guy that'd really help me in English, Australian, New Zealand conditions. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Someone you're going to be following around, living in his pocket.
Yeah, he's probably going to be fed up with me by September, but hopefully we can get on really well, and hopefully he's just really open, and we can build a great partnership.
And is that a perspective that people on the outside of the Lancashire team need to have? Not a case of thinking, there's a guy coming in here and taking the place of an England spinner, but actually thinking how fantastic it is that Tom Hartley can learn from Nathan Lyon. Yeah,
I think that's just how people have different mindsets, but he's going to, I'm hoping he's going to be fantastic for me, and and be a real game changer, because obviously my natural shape is more barrel spin, better suited to here. So to really improve myself, that next step for me is to really learn that overspin. I'm sure I can do it. I'm just hoping he's got a few tips for me to help along.
How has playing in the 100 and in that atmosphere helped prepare you? I know it's a very different format, but for the atmosphere that you faced in Test cricket.
Yeah, like in the 100, my first game, opened the ball in there as well, and it's just a real throw in the deep end, and having those crowds in them first couple of years, have been not quite as loud as these Indian crowds, but still they're up there, and it's just been it's just getting chucked in at the deep end and seeing how you're getting on. It's pretty similar here, and playing in those 100 games and under the pressure, and getting to the final twice now is really helped to calm me down in them pressure situations, which I feel like I've been able to put into place here really.
Just finally, why have you been watching The Dark Knight Rises?
well, there's a little running joke between me and Rooty of calling each other Batman and Robin, and I think he's Batman and I'm Robin, but we call each other Batman. I just thought it was a bit topical, and I thought I'd put it on. So, and Christian Bale's my favourite Batman, so it's a great film.
Come on, you're definitely Batman, aren't you? You're miles taller than him.
Yeah, and hopefully better looking. But yeah, yes, that's all I've got.
Cheers, Tom.
Cheers, thank you.
Well, I am biased here because I know him, and I've seen him develop over the last 3 or 4 years with Manchester Originals and also with Lancashire. And it's his progress that is the most pleasing, and his thirst for knowledge and technique.
Yeah, well, he mentioned there, didn't he? It's been a real change of mindset. And that's really what it's all about. You know, Test match cricket, completely different kind of game to the sort of 100 and all the sort of franchisey stuff and what have you, T20. So, and I'm just listening to him there, and I think that's probably what he'll gain most from the Nathan Lyon coming over. Completely different actions, completely different kind of bowlers. He was talking about trying to, get more overspin and things like that, which is all very well and good. But I'd just be picking his brains over half a lager, just about the mindset of the Test cricketer and how he goes about it, how he looks to, set fields and things and sort of get into the mind, work out how to get players, because, you could see that developing in him as this series has gone. First Test match, he just ran in there and just hit a mark, like throwing darts almost. Yeah. But then you could see as it then progressed, he was then sort of perhaps changing his pace a little bit, using the crease a little bit, and just sort of like developing. So I really hope that, the likes and Bashir, do get a good run. They've shown their worth. I think it's going to be tricky because Jack's down at Somerset and what have you. But I think that perhaps the county should be, I don't know, do you put pressure on perhaps to play a couple of spinners, or do you put pressure on to make sure they're getting cricket or loaned out and things like that? I think there's definitely a discussion to be had that these guys need to now go back and build from that, that fantastic start and that fantastic sort of,
is it
structure that they've got.
Do you not think Deep, do you not think it's the best of both worlds here in that they will have opportunities? They might not play every single game, but actually, do they need to play every single? They'll play in a lot of cricket whilst also having, certainly in Hartley's case, one of the greatest spinners of the last decade that he can learn from.
That's so true. But end of the day, this is how I see it. Because he hasn't had enough experience of playing red ball cricket, what he needs now is to play as much red ball cricket as possible. I mean, all the stuff that he spoke about, having learned from his experience playing in India, but he needs to kind of go back onto the field and do it in a game situation, right? I think the biggest learning when you're bowling in India is try and be consistent and bowl in one area as much as possible. I think if you look at his development from first Test onwards, and the biggest change has been his consistency with line and length. But if he's not going to play games, I don't know. I mean, you lose that touch, and Taffers will tell you, it's about rhythm, it's about the feel. And if you're not playing in a game situation, and secondly, not just game situation, we've got to, this is my observation from this Test match series. I think Ben Stokes has been a huge positive effect on these two bowlers, the way he's led these two spinners. And Taffers will tell you, seamers, yes, you need the captain, but for spinners especially, if you don't have the right kind of captain to back you, it's because they will go for runs. Spinners will go for runs. If he goes for a couple of boundaries and an over, and then let's say the first innings, for example, he goes for 2-3 expensive overs, you need a captain to back him, right? So I think also, it's a tricky situation. Sorry, go on, Taffers.
No. Also deep as well. You won't be playing on these kind of wickets every time you play Test match cricket. So, you've got to learn how to bowl on flat ones. You've got to learn when you lose the toss and do that holding job. That's the next sort of part of his development. Okay, India's nice because you've always got that little bit of something to work with as a spin bowler. But, that is the next sort of path that he's got to go down to. Play on some flat ones and then develop your craft of how to get wicket on flat wickets. So hopefully they won't just pick him when it looks like it's going to spin or things like that. Same with Bash. You've got to develop on all sorts of wickets, and that's hopefully what they'll do.
Mark, Brendan McCullum said, I think you'd be slightly mad if you didn't give them more opportunities in county cricket. I mean, you understand what he's trying to say there. Obviously, he wants them to give him opportunities. Is it helpful?
I don't think it's helpful for the England coach to speak in those terms, really. Look, I've got mixed emotions when I hear about these two young spinners and how England want to develop them, because If they wanted to develop them, they could have had a couple of first-class games instead of being in Abu Dhabi playing golf and in luxury hotels. If they want more cricket, then they could have played more first-class cricket in India. And I know that's a bit of an old-school thing to say in terms of the tours, and it's a long gone are the days when used between test matches you used to play first-class fixtures. But if you can't keep saying, well, the spinners are young and inexperienced if you don't organise matches for them. So I'm a bit torn in terms of the way they want to develop them. And you cannot dictate to counties. Counties have got coaches, directors of cricket and players who are trying to compete and look after their own jobs, quite frankly, and trying to bring success to their own counties. So, I don't think it's helpful for Brendan to make those comments or in the way that he makes them. I'm a little bit surprised that, my own experiences, I learned a great deal off magnificent overseas players who came and led the way in terms of the batting. A fellow called Desmond Haynes was brilliant for Middlesex. For 5 years, he was brilliant and I learned so much off him. The trouble with spin is that often you only play one. And if you've signed someone like Nathan Lyon to lead the attack, you'd think opportunities are going to be very limited for Tom Hartley just at the point in his career where you think, no, off you go. We need to play him. Yeah. So he will learn off Lyon, talking to him, watching him bowl, but ultimately, the players need opportunity. Tuffers was very lucky in that he had a fella called John Embry, who was an experienced world-class bowler, and Tuffers learnt a huge amount off him, but he had to wait his turn in terms of to lead the attack. Often in April, May, he wasn't playing because conditions perhaps didn't warrant two spinners. So he had to bide his time. But I think it's long been a problem area, and every time we go to India, we come back saying the same thing, that we need to develop spin. But really our governing body, in terms of the scheduling, have done domestic cricketers no favours, and in particular the development of spin bowling in this country.
I mean, sometimes April and May conditions don't warrant playing one spinner, let alone two, depending on what it's like. Can you just take us through, Tuffers? And this might be a bit technical, but I do think it's really interesting. When Hartley says he is more barrel spin and wants to learn overspin, so what is he doing at the moment? What does he need to do?
Yeah, well, Nathan Lyon comes over the top, gets bounce, gets turn as well as side spin. So it's almost like an action kind of thing. Tom Hartley sort of comes across himself and sort of jams it into the pitch, a bit like an Axar Patel and a little bit like a Jadeja. And I think that's what his barrel spin. Over the top kind of spin is, you're up tall, you get up on your top leg, your leading leg, and sort of go up and drive through, so you're getting that bounce, which is perfect for Australian kind of wickets. It's absolutely designed for that because you're getting good bounce there. So it's almost like your shoulders. Oh, crikey!
It's so good. It's so good on Zoom. It's tough as bowling masterclass in his kitchen at the moment.
Yeah, your shoulders are sort of like going like a windmill for overspin, and sort of coming round yourself a little bit with barrel spin. So you're actually sort of driving it in to get the bite and the turn instead of that sort of bit of flight and
Can
drop
I just
and bounce.
add to that? All you have to do is just make sure your fingers are over the seam rather than under the seam.
And grip,
Perfect. So what Tuffers is saying, once you get your body over your front foot, your back leg comes through, then your fingers will be over the seam rather than beside the seam. So you get more overspin rather than the barrel, the seam would face more towards square leg, the barrel seam, but overspin it would be more towards the third man or fine leg.
And if he gets improving that overspin, given his height as well, Phil,
absolutely
the threat that he could then cause going forward.
And the one thing that why then Nathan Lyon is such a good bowler is because, as I was saying earlier, he can bowl on flat pitches. The one thing about the sort of the barrel spin on flat pitches, and it's not actually turning, you can get hit both sides of the wicket. You can wait for it, and if you're just off on your line, you can get knocked leg side and offside. When, as you say, if you can get that slightly over the top, you create more problems on flat pitches because there is that bounce, and if the odd one turns, you're in business. So, Nathan Lyon's the best probably exponent I've seen of it. I mean, he just gets people in all sorts of trouble, not by necessarily spinning the ball miles, miles, but just from that that sort of dip, that sort of dip and sort of drop, and he's a bit more of a flight bowler. You see, I wouldn't necessarily say that Tom's a flight bowler, and on flatter pitches you have got to be a flight bowler because it's a little bit easier to hit through the line off you.
Let's move from the spinners to the seam attack, which I think, Mark Ramprakash, if we're sort of looking ahead to the summer as well, you sense there are going to be some places up for grabs here that, you know, obviously, you know, Jimmy will want to keep going and stuff, but, you know, aside from that, there are places there for people.
Yeah, without doubt, absolutely. And of course, you know, in days gone past, you know, England, you know, this has absolutely been England's strength at home. You know, we've played for many, many years where our pitches have had a lot of lateral movement, and, you know, we've had plenty of seam bowlers to call upon. You know, I suppose with Broad's retirement and Jimmy's being 41, you know, we're starting to look at other options, obviously. And this is why it's a little bit surprising to see Ollie Robinson not perhaps doing himself any favours, I would say. And from all reports, look, you know, I'm not sort of privy to being inside the camp and knowing exactly what goes on, but he's very, very highly rated as a bowler. But unfortunately, he's had these fitness issues and perhaps one or two things off the field that have been a distraction. And it's a shame, because you'd think that there is someone who has already had success in Test cricket. He's shown his temperament. You know, he's very competitive when he gets the ball in his hand. But I'm not sure he's a shoo-in at the moment because of these various issues that he's had. I know on the Lions, young Potts, who's already played a bit of Test cricket, he impressed with his energy, his pace and bounce. So he probably comes into contention. But Atkinson, I remember seeing him live last season, and I was really quite taken aback at how quick he bowled. Really from a sort of an action, a little bit like Jofra Archer, where it's very rhythmical, it's very smooth. You know, they creep up on you and suddenly the balls hit the keeper's gloves, and then as a batsman you're thinking, whoa, where's that come from? Because they're not really showing a lot of effort. A little bit, you know, someone like Darren Gough, you know, he was puffing and blowing, and he was all in, you know, trying to sling it down at you, and you felt that he was running in quick and trying to really give it everything. Atkinson's a very smooth operator. Yeah, he's got lovely rhythm, and I think this is where England need to go, because he's got the pace, you see, and that's what you know makes things happen. I think he can also bowl a fuller length in England when it is moving around, but equally if it's flat, he's got the pace to bang it in and make things happen as well.
Yeah, Mark, just on Robinson, he's one of those bowlers, and I'm afraid they're not going to like me saying that he needs bowling, doesn't he? He's like a rhythm bowler. I think it's a bit. he was cast as a bit of a villain in that last Test match, wasn't he? But he's one of those guys. Who can I like an Andrew Caddick? You know, as you say, Goffey just got the ball, bustled in and hurled it down. Andrew Caddick was one of those kind of guys who needed bowling. So it was a tough call for him, standing around, not doing anything, running the drinks out. It doesn't matter how many times you bowl in the nets. You need that kind of rhythm. He's a rhythm bowler and a confidence bowler. So, yeah, it is difficult in those situations just to come in on a pitch that's not necessarily suiting you and just find that ease of bowling sometimes. So, yeah, I felt a bit sorry for him. But
of course, didn't he get injured batting, though? I think he faced over...
all right.
He batted really well. I think he faced about 100 balls. You see, there's batting luck. I've been telling people for years, you know, it's not as easy as it looks.
But are we going into an era whereby, you know, it was always Broad and Anderson, whereas these bowlers now will come and go depending. I'm not saying they'll come, go and then disappear and we won't see them again, but will come and go, whether that's on a rotation basis or whether that's down to their own horses for courses, whether that's down to their own fitness and injury issues. I mean, you know, we talk about Potts there, Mark, but you know, Josh Tongue had a great start to the summer last season and then has had a few injury problems. You wonder, don't you, whether if they aren't going to stay fit, they'll burst on, they'll do something, then we might not see them for a year, it feels like.
It does feel like that. You're right. And look, I mean, the opportunities are there for someone to establish themselves, because rightly, as you say, the attack's broken up. Young Wopes is not there either. He was a fixture for a while. So we've got these young tyros, who've shown a lot of promise. They've got some good pace. But, if they can stay fit, then you'd think they'd really cement themselves in the England Test side. I suppose in this ever-changing landscape of modern day cricket, of course, there's so many franchise opportunities, one-day tournaments, and so we may see a lot more movement of players. Because they 1 minute they're playing franchise, and maybe England's priorities might be the T20 World Cup, and then it might be the Ashes, and so they'll, the management will have to work out, perhaps how they want to prioritise. Mark Wood, he doesn't play too many matches. He's effective in all formats, but he doesn't play too many matches in a row, certainly test matches. So there will be opportunities, and I agree. It could be that they try and develop a bit of a stable of young bowlers. I mean, Sam Curran is still knocking around. I know he's thought of probably more as a T20 cricketer, but, Ed Smith really liked him in the England side and felt that as an all-rounder with his left-arm swingers and batting. So, there are different permutations to teams. And I think at the moment, you're right, there's a lot of conjecture about, what will be the makeup of the England side, whether they will play a frontline spinner. I mean, I still think for me, Leach is probably the senior man, day in, day out. But there's no guarantees that he will play depending on the conditions that are in front of them. It could be just four seamers. So there are definitely opportunities out there.
Yeah, I think you're right, Chappers. I don't think we'll see the likes of a Stuart Broad and a Jimmy Anderson again, really. Like one of those chaps who's on the team sheet, he's on there. I think that it's going to be completely, horses for courses, who's fit and everything. So I just don't think with the schedules and what have you that you're going to see another the likes of Jimmy Anderson, who's just he's your seam bowler and he's on.
No, and quite a lot of those bowlers actually, Deep, that I was mentioning. Well, all of them, I think. Atkinson, Tongue, Potts, Carse, all have white ball interests as well.
Yes, and there's so much of cricket also. I mean, got to keep in mind the workload management issue and stuff like that, which is obviously, something that all teams, and for example, what India has done this time around while giving out the contracts, they've got a different set of contract for 5 fast bowlers, which is not the usual contracts. This is a special contract. So they're trying to create a pool of fast bowlers because, like you're talking about the situation here in England, it's the same situation with every team. Because Bumrah is going to come, go, he's going to play a couple of test matches, take a break. God forbid there's an injury, then you got Shami. And also someone like, you also keep looking at, most of them are all format players.
Yeah.
Especially when they're young. So you've got to keep that in mind. So, no matter what country or what team you're looking at, you've got to look at least the fast bowlers. You've got to look at a pool of good 5-6 seamers.
What's built into their contracts then, Deep, that's different for those 5 of them?
Right. So you've got the normal contracts. There's A+, A, B, C. Apart from that, so there are the usual seamers where you'll find Shami, you'll find Bumrah, you find Siraj and all the other guys. But you've got these young 5 fast bowlers like Akashdeep, who's made his debut. So what happens is, if you don't have a contract, they don't have access to the Indian support staff.
Right.
So then they're off. While they're playing for India, that's fine. While they're not playing for India, they don't have access to the academy. They don't have access to the Indian support staff and the academy support staff for everything from training to keeping track of their progress and everything else. So once they're contracted, they're in the fold. So you can keep track of them and how much they're bowling and their fitness and everything else. So that's the reason. And obviously that's kind of a little bit of a confidence boost for these young kids as well, that they're part of the scene. So for example, Akashdeep is a great example. He bowled so beautiful in the last test match, but in Dharamshala, he won't be there because Bumrah would be back. Chances are it's going to be Bumrah and Siraj playing the test match. And then if next series, whenever that happens, I think that's after the World Cup, if someone like Shami is available, then he's gone further back in the queue. So just to keep them, part of the whole setup and keep them interested, so you've got a contract for them as well.
So Jonny Bairstow will play his 100th test on Thursday, becoming the 17th Englishman to do so. After how many of those tests, Phil, do you think we've discussed what his future's going to be?
Well, good point. I mean, we're talking people who have sort of like done well on this tour, and Ben Foakes, for my mind, has done extremely well. We've seen what he can do with the gloves. He's very handy with the bat as well. I think Johnny thoroughly deserves his crack at 100 Test matches. I think you've got to give him his due and get that milestone. When he comes back, there is going to be that decision what to do. In England conditions, do you then go back to him keeping wicket and coming in with the bat and what have you, like he was the start of this sort of Bazball, so to speak, kind of thing? I'm not quite sure what they're going to do, but he hasn't had a great last 10 or 12 tests, has he? So he's got to this 100 milestone. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle that and what they're thinking about what they're going to do in English conditions, because he's still an absolute brute, in English conditions. He can destroy you and win a game for you. It's just whether they're going to stick with Foakes. As Ramps was saying, Harry Brook comes back. So interesting to see. He might just go off into the sunset and go and, play franchise cricket, but that's not necessarily the Johnny Bairstow I know.
No, but for a man who's played 100 tests, we have spent a long time, I think, over the years, Mark, discussing where he should bat, whether he should keep, what the balance of the side is, with him in, without him in.
No, absolutely. We have, and partly that's been down to Johnny not being able at times to establish himself and cement his place. I mean, look, what Ben Stokes and McCullum have done brilliantly is they've shown Johnny a lot of love. They've really shown that they value him, that he's a key senior player of this England group. And when they took over, that was the message, loud and clear, and it really resonated with Johnny, and he's loved playing under this management style and captain of Ben Stokes. Look, I think it's a magnificent achievement. He came into Yorkshire, and he's been a very, very good red ball player for Yorkshire. He thoroughly deserved his opportunities at international level, at Test level, of course. And I think it's something like 6 Test hundreds that he got in 2022. So it was fantastic form. And then, of course, he had this terrible injury, and I think that's affected him a lot more than perhaps people realise. But he's a great guy, Johnny, and of course, he was part of that brilliant opening partnership with Jason Roy, and so this is what I think about his future, is that during that World Cup in 2019, on the way into that for basically the previous 4 years, England targeted the World Cup, and Johnny was very much part of that. Played brilliantly up at the top of the order, went in, made use of the first 10 overs and, got England off and running brilliantly. He, I think now is at a stage where he's 34 years old. He's had a brilliant international career, 100 Test matches. He's played 1 World Cups. He's done it all. And I think, yes, the management will have a view on what they want to do with him, but he also needs to have a good think about, for the remainder of his career, what does he want to achieve? What floats his boat? Is it franchise cricket? Is it just playing the short format and retiring from Test matches? I still think he can be a brilliant Test player, but you need to do the work. You need to put in the effort and the time and the practice against the moving ball or the spinning ball. Franchise cricket, I don't think, is quite the same. You don't have to put in the hours honing your skills. I keep hearing the modern day batter talk about see it, hit it. Well, it's not that easy when the ball's bowled at 90 miles an hour and it's moving around. You get a little bit of nose and toes from Pat Cummins or, Mitchell Stark, or you're facing high quality spin. So you do have to put the hours in. I think Johnny Bairstow himself needs to have a really good old think at the end of this trip. What does he want for the remainder of his career?
And if he decides to wanting to keep playing Test cricket, Deep, we're back into the age-old, and I think this has happened for the majority of my lifetime, of batsmanship against glove work.
Yeah, I mean, I think if he wants to continue playing Test match cricket, and I think I completely agree with Rams there. I mean, he's a senior player, 100 Test matches. I think he's got every right to decide where he wants to take his career. But if he does want to continue, I think then the question is how they see Foakes' role in the Test side. Is he a conditions-only wicketkeeper batter, or is he going to be a regular wicketkeeper batter? Because I think a lot would depend on how the team management looks at Foakes. Because I think if they look at Foakes only for conditions suited to his kind of skill set, then I think they would definitely want to continue with Bairstow. Also the fact that, listen, I mean, last Test match, he did not get a 50, but I think he looked really good. And I think at times we just get carried away at times with the quantum of runs. I thought his 30 in the first innings was flawless. I think he got 38 of 34 balls. I mean, till the time he played that sweep in the first innings, it seemed like they were, I mean, he and Joe Root were controlling the game at that point in time. Even second innings, till the time first ball, I don't know what happened to him. I mean, he played on the rise, he wanted to play on the rise drive. But then he was looking good. It's not, he hasn't got big runs, but it's not that he's looking out of form. So I won't be too concerned as far as Bairstow is concerned, but yeah, end of the day, it's to a great extent, it's his call. And
now as well, Mark, they're talking about the wicket-keeping talent that's coming behind Ben Foakes. You know, when you look at some of the younger ones on the county circuit.
Yeah, well, it's nice that England have got the sort of that position, plenty of options. You know, I mean, it was always. Well, not long ago, we were talking about Jos Buttler and Sam Billings. But, of course, there are younger guys around. I mean, but to me, I just think that, look, everyone will have their own view. I think Ben Foakes, I think he wakes up every morning thinking how he can be a better Test match player. I don't think he has the sort of franchise distraction of some of these other keepers that they've had, Bairstow and Buttler and people like that, Sam Billings, but I think Ben Foakes, to me, you could almost, if you wanted, have a framework for your Test side.
Yeah.
And he could be one of your guys who's, if he knows he's dedicated, and you sort of target him for the Test match cricket because he's recognised as the best gloveman. He certainly can bat at that level, no question. And I think at times, it would be good for any team really to have that continuity and know that that particular position is, that Ben is going to get a run in the side just like others have.
Mark, yes, Deep.
Sorry, I mean, without a shadow of doubt, he's the best gloveman in the world right now. I mean, I have no doubt saying that. But even as a batter, I mean, the way he batted, I mean, obviously he's got the skills as a batsman as well. I think if you're looking at somebody else apart from Bairstow, it's got to be him. You've got to give him a bigger rope and give him that confidence that, here you go, irrespective of where we're playing, whether it's Australia, South Africa, India, Pakistan, you're going to play the next, year and a half. And then maybe then judge him. But as of now, it's been a stop-start kind of a career, which is very unfair.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting saying it, really, because it's not necessarily the way this England side play their cricket, is it? So it's going to be interesting to see, are they just going to sort of step back away from this so-called sort of like Bazball style and go for the more traditional kind of style, or are they going to keep with these guys, and they want 7 batters, and, if he drops a couple, well, it's not the end of the world. So,
the tough is, it is interesting, but you talk about style of play. I mean, England's best batsman, how did he bat in the last match? It was brilliant. It was brilliant batting from Joe Root, 100 off, 215 balls, 48 singles. But England's best player showed that he could adapt, and he showed why he got to number 1 in the world by playing his way, but not playing a prescribed way that has been given to him. So I look, Ben Foakes is a proper batsman, and there's no reason why if he was given a run in the side that he couldn't bat number 6, and it gives England the option to play a couple of all-rounders and some bowlers. Play 5 proper bowlers. I think Foakes I think he's good enough to bat number 6. Whereas at the moment it seems to be that they want to have the top 6 batsmen plus a wicketkeeper, and then 4 bowlers. And so that's the big decision for England, is how the composition of their team when they play at home.
Just to add to that, I mean, I've been hearing about this baseball for over a couple of years now, and it seems like everyone has a different definition of baseball. And how I see it is maximizing an individual's skill set. I think, someone like, if you look at, great example, Joe Root last test match, even for that matter, Ben Stokes, how he approaches his first 30-40 deliveries as compared to someone like Ben Duckett. So that's how Ben Duckett plays. So you maximize, that's how Zach Crawley plays. So you maximize their talent, which would be very different from, let's say, a Ben Foakes or someone else, or let's say an Ollie Pope. So I think for me, how I would describe baseball is trying to maximize an individual skill set.
Just moving on to India. We've got about 10 minutes left tonight, and we're going to go back to Bramall Lane shortly when the full-time whistle goes. Sheffield United 0, Arsenal 6. But has this been the series deep where we've started to see the baton being handed over in the Indian Test side?
Definitely, yes. I think from that perspective, it was very, very important and crucial for India to win this Test series, because obviously the selectors and the team management have decided to take a different direction, especially when it comes to batting. Looking beyond, players like Cheteshwar and Ajinkya Rahane and all of that, and Virat in his absence, KL Rahul, his injury. So obviously, it was important because then, obviously Shreyas being dropped. If they hadn't, then obviously there would be questions asked about this new direction, which the team wants to take right now and the selectors. So I think it was very, very important, and also kind of is good to see that next generation, because we know that there is a lot of talent in terms of white ball cricket, and especially with lack of the A circuit or A games in the last few years. It's been difficult for India to find out, the red ball bench strength, so to say. The white ball, you can see it in IPL and everything else, but for the red ball. So I think it is kind of a transition period, and got at least a couple of really good talent there.
So to identify someone like Jaswal, how difficult is that for them then?
See, for someone like Yashasvi, it's not that difficult because you could see it.
Yeah.
And it's not that you just picked him simply because you see the potential in him, but he's coming from a couple of really good domestic season as well, red ball cricket I'm talking about. If you look at first class, before he made his debut, he was averaging around 60 plus. So you know there is definitely potential, but there is also performance to back that potential. Same with someone like, I think Dhruv Jurel was more of a judgment call. You saw someone, you thought, he's got talent, why not? But apart from that, someone like Sarfaraz, tons and tons of runs last 3 years. He's been averaging around 100 last 3 years, if I'm not wrong, in first class cricket. So yeah, a lot of it is performance based, but I think Dhruv Jurel was purely a judgment call, which was really, really heartening to see him do as well as he did.
I always find it exciting, Phil, probably more than any other country, when the next young group come through in India, as you try to, and I mean this in the most positive, complimentary way, to try and work out, which one of them will carry the positive hysteria of a nation next, as that baton gets passed, from Tendulkar to Dhoni to Kohli, and who's next coming down the line.
Well, as you say, Jaswal, the runs speak for themselves, double hundreds. I don't think India have got too much to worry about. Remember, and you were talking about 4-1 and 3-2. Now, you must remember, India have got a lot of world-class players not actually even playing in this side, So the guys who have come in, or the sort of the youngsters and that sort of transition, have stood up fantastically well. They've won games from behind. They've won games from sort of awkward corners that England got them in, and they've showed a lot of maturity already. So India will always be extremely difficult to beat in home conditions, no matter what 11 they sort of put out, really. But it's just how are they going to adapt when they go away. But that's for the future to see, and that's for for players to mature. But I've been fascinated, and then 4-1 England, we were talking about it, England losing 4-1 to a side without a Kohli, without a Shami, Jadeja being injured and all these kind of, things, all of a sudden is a bit of a walloping, really.
Mark, have you been excited by the fresh blood?
Yes, absolutely. Although, some of it, they are clearly seasoned players. They haven't picked sort of, an 18, 19-year-old out of the blue. I remember when Vinod Kambli and Phil Tuffers. Yeah, Tuffers. I think you remember Vinod Kambli quite well.
I've just fallen off my chair, Mike.
He burst onto the scene in '92 with a couple of double hundreds, a little bit like Jaiswal actually, and it's fantastic to see these guys and the confidence that they have, and I think that. I mean, Deep will know much more than I, but with the fact that they're playing in the short format with all these international players in the high pressure cricket of IPL, but then to still come out and have the really good basics that you need, repeatable basics for the first class cricket, good decision making. And actually Jaiswal was talking about how inspired he was watching the Rohit Sharma and Jadeja partnership when India were 30 for 3 on day one of, I think it was the third test. And he said, look, he watched that and, learned a lot from it. So, that says something about the man, doesn't it? That he's confident in his own game, but he's also open-minded. I mean, it's that sort of attitude that will take you a long way, I think, in professional sport. India have had players come in, and England may have thought, oh, well, we're so happy that Virat's not there and someone else has come in and played brilliantly. And as a result, I think the England selectors and Rohit Sharma in particular will be so happy that they've managed to win test matches, dominate them. But equally, they've done it with a side that looks very much in transition.
Just finally, Deep, what do you think India have learnt most out of this test series?
I guess a lot. I mean, especially as we were talking about the batting lineup, I think that's a huge positive. The batting lineup because it's fairly new. Even Shubman Gill, I think, leave aside Rohit and Jadeja in the top 6. There's not much cricket there, so obviously everyone's new. You see the next generation of Indian batters coming through us, and that's a big positive. A big shout out for Ravichandran Ashwin as well. He's playing his 100th Test match. I mean, he's been an absolute legend. I mean, 35 fivers. That's an achievement. And so, biggest positive is that. And also, I think Rohit's captaincy. I think post-match, after the 4th Test match, the post-match conference, he said something which I thought was so important in the context of the cricket scene right now, the ecosystem. He came out and say that we're not just looking at talent, but we're also looking at how hungry the players are to play test match cricket. I think it was very, very important to say that because obviously, I don't know whether you've been following it or not. There have been a few issues with the IPL coming up in a month and a half, and a lot of people avoiding domestic cricket and so on and so forth. So I think it was very, very important. So I think it's also important the way that Rohit's led this side. It's kind of he's kind of stamped his authority on this team and on also the future of the side.